Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about creating a network topology, and inside the network topology, we will create devices and arrange those devices. Also maybe delete some of the devices and make connection between those devices. So let's get started. To create a device, you have this selection box. In the selection box, you have categories like network devices, end devices, components, and as such. And for those categories, you have subcategories as well. For example, for network devices, we have routers, and for routers, we have different type of models of routers, specific devices. So, for example, I want a 1941 router. Now I click on the 1941 router. Now my cursor has changed. Now I click on the workspace and now I have created a device. To create multiple devices of the same type, what I can do is that I will press Ctrl first on my keyboard, then I will press one of these routers, 2901, I want this router, and now I come to the workspace and now I can create multiple instances of the same type of router. 1, 2, 3, 4. Without going backward and forward, I can create many routers at the same time. To cancel the connection, either I can click in here, as you can see it can be cancelled, or I can press Escape on my keyboard. We also have the ability to undo and redo, and these are the shortcuts. As you can see, I can undo the creation of router 4 and I can redo the creation of router 4 once again, and it will appear for me once again. The most commonly used tool that we use in Packet Tracer is the select tool. This is the default tool, and by using the select tool we can arrange devices. For example, I can arrange this router and move it to wherever on the workspace that I want to. I can arrange multiple devices at the same time, so I will drag my select tool on 4 of these routers and I can arrange their position however I want to. I can also select devices one at a time by pressing Shift on my keyboard. So if I have Shift on my keyboard, I can select this, this, and this, and now I can move them from here to here. To delete a device, first I need to highlight that device. Now I have highlighted router 3. If I click on the delete tool, this router can be deleted. Now my cursor has changed to the delete tool. As you can see, this is the delete tool and my cursor has changed to the delete tool. So now without highlighting, I can click on whatever devices that I have on the workspace and I can delete them using the delete tool. To cancel the delete tool, you can go to the select tool or you can press Escape. Now let's add a few more devices to the workspace. First I want to add a router, and maybe I want to add a switch, and I want to add a PC, and I want to add a server. Now let's go to router 5. If I left click on the router 5, this window will appear for me. I can go to the physical tab and now I can zoom in on this router. This is the physical view of the router. Routers don't have any modules installed by default, so I can add modules to this router. But first I need to turn off the router because it's not possible to add a module if the device is turned on. So I will turn it off and now I can add modules. I will add this module and this module, and maybe I can add a cover if it fits. I don't think it fits, so I'm not able to add this module. If I want to remove a module, I can click on the module on the router and put it back here on the list. Now it's removed. Now I can add another different type of module. This module is not compatible, so not all modules are compatible. Let's try this one. This is also not compatible. Let's maybe put a cover back in here. Now let's go and make a few connections between these devices. To make a connection, first in the device type selection box, you can go to connections and you can use auto cable. Using auto cable, Packet Tracer will automatically choose the connection type for you. Now if I press this, my cursor has changed to a connection. I can left click on the router and click again on the switch, and as you can see, the connection has been created and the type of connection is also selected by Packet Tracer. Now let's add a connection by manually choosing the connection type. Now in here I have the copper straight through, copper crossover, fiber, and other types of connections. I will need a copper straight through, so I will select it, select on switch, select the interface, click on PC and select the interface, and now this connection has been created. To add multiple connections of the same type, I can use Control on my keyboard, and now that I have Control on my keyboard, I will click on copper straight through. Then I can create multiple connections at the same time. To cancel this mode, simply press Escape on your keyboard. To change a cable from one device to another or recable, I can click here on the link light, and once I click here on the link light, now the cursor has changed to a connection and I can change from that router to this router. And to delete an existing cable, I can use the delete tool. Sorry, I have to go back because router 2 was highlighted. I want to press on the workspace so nothing is highlighted. Now I go to delete tool. I can delete these connections easily by using the delete tool. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about creating custom device templates and removing those templates once we are done with it. So the purpose for creating a custom device template is that we can customize a device based on our needs, and we can save it as a device template so that we can reuse it later on whenever we want to. Even if we close Packet Tracer, we restart our computer, the device template will always be available for us to be used at a later time. Let's get started. First, I want to go to End Devices and I want to customize a PC. Now this PC by default has a fast Ethernet interface. Instead of this fast Ethernet interface, I want to add a wireless module to this PC. Let's add a wireless module to this PC. Now my PC is customized and I want to save this customization as device template. Let's close this window. Come here in the Tools menu, Custom Device dialog, and in here I can select this device, give it a name, customized PC, give it a description, PC with wireless module, and add it in the subcategory that you want to. I want to add it in the end switches subcategory and also in the miscellaneous subcategory. Now press add, and now Packet Tracer asks you to save this custom device template file as a PDD file in the templates folder of Packet Tracer. Remember that you always save this PTD file in the templates folder, otherwise if you save it somewhere else it will not appear on the Packet Tracer, because Packet Tracer will always look on the templates folder. Now let's save this PTD file. Now you can see that my PC, which is the customized PC, has appeared here in the miscellaneous category, and it has also appeared in the end device category. Let's see. You can see that my customized PC is also available there. Now let's create another instance of this PC. Open this instance and you will be able to see that I have the wireless module already installed. I can further customize this PC by going to Customize Icon in Logical View, and I can select an image to be used as the icon for this PC. Let's go to Downloads folder. I have this image. Now, as you can see, the icon is customized and it appears with a different icon. Unfortunately, there is no way to save this icon in the custom device template. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about clustering a network topology. The purpose of clustering a network topology is to remove the clutter on your workspace and make more space and represent a cluster of devices inside one icon or inside one representation. So let's get started and see how it works. To make a cluster of the devices that you want them to be inside a cluster, make sure that you have highlighted those devices in the first place and then click on this icon. Create new cluster. Now all of those devices are hidden inside this cluster, and this one cluster represents all of those devices. Let's name this cluster something meaningful. My Office Network. Just like a device, you can also move the cluster around using the Select tool. To uncluster the devices, select the Delete tool and then click on the cluster. You will be given a prompt. You will have two options, either to uncluster the cluster of the devices or completely delete the cluster, which will delete all of the devices inside the cluster and the cluster itself. But for the time being, we just want to uncluster. Now let's cluster those devices once again. Select them all together and create them as a cluster and name them something meaningful. My Home Network. Now I want to add an additional device here in the workspace. This is my Office router. Now I want to connect my Office router to my home network. To do that, let's go to the connections, choose auto cable and use the auto cable. As you can see, auto cable or auto connection is not applicable for clusters, so you can't really use auto connection. Now we have to create our connection manually. I want to use a copper straight through cable. Click on my Office router, select the interface, now click on the cluster, and now I'm represented with a list of all of the devices inside the cluster, and I can choose the device that I want to connect to. I want to connect to this multi-layer switch, Fast Ethernet 0/6. Now my Office router is connected to my home network, which is a cluster. Let's open this cluster and see if the connection has happened. As you can see, the connection has been established, and here I am in the navigation level of my home network. I can change my navigation level again to the root level by going one level up. Now here I am in the root level, and if I go back to this cluster, I am in the My Home Network navigation level. By browsing inside the cluster, you will be able to see all of the components that are located inside the cluster. Now let's go back to the root level once again. I want to move my Office router from the root level inside the cluster. And to do that, I would use this move tool, click on my office router and move it to home network. Now let's open this cluster. You can see that my office router is moved to my home network cluster. Now let's move it back to the root level once again. Move to root and let's navigate to root, and you can see it's back here in the root level. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about annotating a network topology. So the purpose for annotating a network topology is to add graphics and nodes on the topology for better representation and understanding of the topology. Now let's get started. The first thing that I want to do is that to change the background image for the logical workspace. Here I can do that. If I come to here, click on this icon, and I browse my computer, I have a picture here in my pictures. This is a world map. I want to apply it on my logical workspace. Now you can see that the image is applied on the logical workspace. Now I want to add some graphics on this topology. I can add a line, I can add a rectangle, ellipse, or freeform. If I click on any of these, this palette dialog will open for me, and I have the ability to choose the shape, the outline, and the fill color. The outline, I always like the red color, so I will choose the red color. And for the fill color, I have a lot of options in here. I can use these predefined colors. I can use this area to select my color, choose the shade, or enter or RGB value for my color, but I want to pick a color from the screen. Here I have picked a color from the screen, and I want to add it to the custom colors so that I can use it at a later time. I think my selection has gone wrong. Okay, now let's click OK. Now using this tool, I can draw my rectangle. As you can see here, my rectangle is drawn. And for this area, I don't want to have a fill color. I only want to have an outline. So I will select no fill, and this area will only have an outline. Now, as you can see that the analog phone, this A is not covered. So what I can do is that to close this window, resize using this tool, I can resize my rectangle and drag it from this area, the small rectangle at this area. You can see that. You can use that to resize any shape. And using my select tool, I will bring it to cover the analog phone as well. Now I want to add a few nodes on these rectangles so that we have a good understanding of what the rectangles represent. This is my office, and in here I want to add a node. This is my home. Using this node tool, I can also put some nodes for the devices. For example, I want to add the IP address for this device for my home router: 152.254.243.211 and 1. That is my home router, and that is a reference for me on my topology. That makes the topology easier to understand. We also have this inspect tool here in this area. As you can see, I have the inspect tool, and I can inspect any of my devices in my topology for different types of tables. For example, I have a routing table on the router, an IPv6 routing table, OP table, NAT table. For different devices, the inspect tool will provide different tables. For the PC, it will only provide the OP table and port status summary table. And for the multi-layer switch, there's a few other things such as MAC table that is more specific to the switch. And finally, what I can do is that to add a description of this whole topology in here, you can see that this tool is the network description tool. And if I click on it, this window will appear for me. I will add a description, my network of home and office. And I want to close it. But every time I click on this tool, this node will appear for me. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.